like 0, you're in a good place right now. If you're at 10, that means you're really like extremely stressed. There's a lot of things that you're trying to process. And then 5 is like a good happy medium. And so you can drag the icon that you see on your screen, and I'm able to show like the participants. So if I want to see your responses, I can see how people are feeling. Okay, so when you're at a place where you feel like, all right, this is how I'm feeling, we can pause. So it looks like most people are doing okay, which is really good given the circumstances that we're in. And so this is how it works. There's going to be interactive questions, and you guys can answer as we go, okay? All right. And the more interaction I get, the better the session goes. Okay, so this session, I'm calling it Emotional Self-Awareness and Family Relations. And the reason we are talking about interpersonal relationships is because it's very important, not just on a worldly sense, like we want to get along with people, but the Bible also cares about how we interact and treat one another. And so the 2 verses that I want to be our grounding verses before we begin is Proverbs 10:12, which says that hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers all wrongs. And then 1 Peter 4:8, which basically says the same thing. It says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. So the Bible cares deeply about how we love and care for one another. And so it's important for us to equip ourselves with the skills that we need to be able to do these relationships well, especially the parent-child relationships. Okay, now I can begin. So to begin our session, I'm going to actually play a clip from a movie called Inside Out. Now, this movie is it's based on emotions. So when we watch the movie, you'll see within the mind of the characters. So the characters' emotions, different emotions, there'd be like a character for joy, anger, sadness. So each of the emotions are like characters inside of her head, and you see how they all affect how she behaves. And so in this session, what we're learning about is how do our emotions affect our behavior, and how we can in turn understand ourselves better so we can behave better in our relationships. And so I'm using this movie as a kind of a discussion point. So to give you guys some background, in the movie Inside Out, the main character, Riley, is moving from Minnesota to San Francisco with her family, and she's struggling with all the changes that are happening. And so it gives us a glimpse into what's going on in her mind, because she ends up having a really heated argument with her family because they're not really understanding each other, because she's struggling with the changes and her parents are also struggling, but no one is really communicating that. And so we're going to watch this clip and see how it all plays out, and then we'll have some discussions about it. All right, so this is Riley, her parents, and then we're just going to all watch what scene unfolds.
So, as it turns out, the green trash can is not recycling. It's for greens, like compost and eggshells. And the blue one is recycling. And the black one...
Riley is acting so weird. Why is she acting so weird?
What are you...
Okay, so just to clarify, these characters that we see right now, they're her emotions inside of her head. So this is, the green one is disgust, the red one is anger, and then this one, I believe, is fear. The purple one is fear.
Expect all the islands are down.
Joy would know what to do.
That's it. Until she gets back, we just do what Joy would do.
Great idea. Anger, fear, disgust. How are we supposed to be happy?
Hey, Riley, I've got good news. I found a junior hockey league right here in San Francisco, and get this, tryouts are tomorrow after school. What luck, right?
Hockey?
Uh-oh, what do we do?
Guys, here, you pretend to be Joy.
Won't it be great to be back out on the ice?
Oh yeah, that sounds fantastic.
What was that? That wasn't anything like Joy.
Because I'm not Joy?
Yeah, no kidding.
Did you guys pick up on that?
Did.
Something's wrong.
Should we ask her?
Let's probe, but keep it subtle so she doesn't notice. So, how was the first day of school?
She's probing us.
I'm done. You pretend to be Joy.
What? Okay,
It was fine, I guess. I don't know. Oh, very smooth. That was just like Joy.
Something is definitely going on.
She's never acted like this before. What should we do? We're gonna find out what's happening, but we'll need support. Signal the husband. Ahem.
Uh-oh, she's looking at us. What did she say?
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Is it garbage night? We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
He's making that stupid face again.
I could strangle him right now.
Signal him again.
So, Riley, how was school?
You gotta be kidding me.
For this, we gave up that Brazilian helicopter pilot?
Move! I'll be joy.
School was great, all right?
Riley, is everything okay?
Sir, she just rolled her eyes at us.
What is her deal? All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down.
No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I'll show you attitude. No. Stay happy!
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass.
Take it to DEFCON 2.
You heard that, gentlemen? DEFCON 2.
Listen, young lady, I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Pops? Come and get it!
Yeah, well,
Here it comes. Prepare the foot.
Keys to sector position. Ready to launch on your command, sir.
just shut up!
Fire!
That's it. Go to your room. Now.
The foot is down. The foot is down.
Good job, gentlemen. That could have been a disaster.
Well, that was a disaster.
Okay, so that's a scene from the movie, just showing you guys how different emotions were affecting Riley's behavior. In the end, you see that anger is the one that triumphs. So her and her dad, they were both very angry, and you can see it from the outside, but you can also see it from the inside in this way. And so we want to ask some questions about what we just watched. So when Riley gets angry at the dinner table, did that help her situation? And how could she have expressed her emotions to her parents in a more helpful way? So you guys have the option to type your answers, both parents and students. I want to see what you have to say, and then we'll have more discussions.
Just let everybody know that when you type your answer, we don't know who typing it and where the answers come
from. Yes.
The results display, so don't be
yes.
out.
It's completely, it's anonymous. So all I can see is just a bunch of answers. So I don't know who wrote what. So this is a great way for you to be completely honest, even when we ask like other questions later on. So we can actually have real conversations about our relationship. So I'll give everyone 30 more seconds, and then I'll start reading the responses. Let me see. Okay, I'll start reading the ones that are done. Someone said it didn't help. She could have talked to them and told her how she felt so they can figure it out and try to make it better. She could have been more calm. It didn't help her situation because her parents got even more mad, and she could have expressed her emotions, she could have not expressed her emotions so aggressively. She could have communicated her anger in a more respectful way and try to understand her parents' perspective. Okay. Riley getting angry wasn't beneficial to her situation. She could have responded to her parents more calmly. She could have been honest with them and tell them how she felt rather than getting angry and yelling. She could have said she felt bad about moving. Okay. So a lot of you guys are talking about respect and being more open and honest. And that is a good observation. So, and while you're answering, I want you guys to think about any situations you might have had where you responded in a way that did not help the situation, and be reflectful, because it's easy to say what to do now, but in those moments, it's very difficult to do those things. So I'm glad that you guys are reflective, but I really want us to think about the situations that we've experienced as well as we're answering. Okay, so thank you everyone for that. For the sake of time, we're going to move on to the next slide. So, like I said, we are talking about emotional self-awareness and the benefits of self-awareness. So self-awareness, just to define it, the word is pretty self-explanatory, but it's being aware or observant of your own self. Most times, one major thing I learned is that you really cannot change someone else, but you can change how you yourself behave and how you yourself think. So we're working on ourselves first before directing our energy towards someone else. So the benefits of self-awareness are these three, and we're going to just talk about them briefly. It's one, understanding how your emotions affect your behavior. And then two, it allows you to learn from your emotions. And then three is, now that you learned about how you express your emotions, you can choose the manner that is best. So it's kind of a three-step process. And we're going to break them down one by one. Okay, so first up is understanding how your emotions affect your behavior. In the movie, we're able to see that Riley's different emotions in turn affected her behavior. So a lot of times it's emotions that we don't recognize that affect how we feel. Sometimes it could be just having a really long, draining day, like you're tired, and so that causes you to act in a way that you normally wouldn't act. Or maybe you had one really bad interaction, and then that in turn affects how you interact with your parents later in the day. So it's a lot of emotions that you're unaware of that affect how you behave, and they can cloud your judgment and lead you to behave inappropriately. So if you recognize that your emotion and the way that, if you recognize that your emotion and the way it affects your behavior, you can take steps to control them, manage them, and make sure that your relationships are appropriate. And with this in mind, I think I want to talk about what the goal of any conflict resolution or any interaction is, right? The goal of our relationship should not be, or the goal of our conversation should not just be to be right, but it should be to maintain that relationship. We should always value the relationship more than just being right, because at the end of the day, we all want to just be understood. We want to be, we want to have healthy relationships, because we're living in the same room. You're bound to these relationships for forever, really. So it's very important for us to value the relationship over just being right. Okay. The second benefit of emotional self-awareness is that you learn from your emotions. So you're able to learn your habits. So recognizing your emotion and observing how they affect you enables you to learn from them. For example, I've noticed in my own life, after a long day outside, like I need to recharge. I need some time to myself before I can have interactions with other people in my household. So usually I take some time to myself, because I've noticed that I'm not as patient if I've just been drained. Or with my parents, for example, I noticed that we have better relationships if I clean and organize my room, because I'm able to understand them better. You know, I recognize their emotions, and so I know that, oh, my mom is happier when things are organized, so I'm able to do that. So it's very important for us to learn from people's emotions and from our own emotions as well. And then third is you are able to choose how you express your emotions. And this takes like conscious effort. A lot of times we do things very robotically. We don't really think and process through everything, but it's very important to take time to think about, how do I want to express myself? What tone do I want to use? What are the words that I should be using? And you're very conscious about, how is this other person going to interpret what I'm going to say? And so when you think about how you express your emotions rather than just expressing them in the moment, it's very intentional, so it doesn't do as much damage. You're actually able to get the result that you want to get. If my end goal is, say, for my parents to let me do a certain activity, the tone that I use to ask them matters, the timing that I use to ask them matters, the words that I use to ask them matters. All of these things matter. So it's very important for us to have conscious to make this a conscious process. So that's what the first thing is saying. Being aware of your emotions is the first step, and making your reaction to them a conscious process. And that's the goal we want, right? To make it something that we think about, not just react without thinking. And so there's a proactive element to it. And if you're able to recognize your emotions, you're able to express them clearly to others. And so that's just the general overview of why, like what's the benefit of having self-awareness. And then next, real quick, we're going to move towards techniques to help us with emotional self-awareness. Okay, so these are 4 techniques, just very practical steps that we can act on, and we're going to actually do some exercises to help us practice them. And so the first step is to observe yourself, right? Really take the time to think about how you behaved, even take in the feedback of other people. Step number 2 is to know your triggers. So we're going to talk about a little bit about triggers. And then the third step is to develop your emotional vocabulary. And then the fourth step is to ask for feedback. We're going to talk in depth about the first 3 steps. Okay? So step number 1, observing yourself. So asking yourself, what am I doing? How do I feel? Is this feeling serving me well? It's very important to think about how you are behaving. I think it's very easy for us to notice other people. And honestly, even in the Bible, it talks about how as human beings, we're very quick to notice what someone else is doing. We're quick to observe others. But really, it's important, parents, children, everyone, to really observe themselves first. And then step number 2 is figuring out your triggers. What causes you to react in a certain way? A lot of the times with our emotions, it's a cause and effect relationship to certain things trigger a certain response. So figure out what triggered those emotions and what is affecting your decisions and how do you feel about that decision. So we're going to talk about what are our triggers now, okay? So what is something triggering for you in your parent-child relationship? So parents, you can talk about what triggers you. And then students, you can talk about something else, something that triggers you. So it could be as simple as tone. It can be not being given a chance to speak. Whatever it is that triggers you when you're having conflict within your parent, with your relationship with your parents, what is your trigger? So a trigger is something that causes like a harsh emotional reaction or a very strong emotional reaction. And so with these responses, I want you guys to please be as honest as possible, because 1, it's a chance for parents to understand their children, and then 2, it's a good opportunity for children to understand their parents too, because this is anonymous. So we're really able to see what triggers us, what causes us to respond in a very strong way. Thank you for everyone that's been responding. I have 20 responses so far. I'll give everyone about 30 more seconds. Okay. I think I'll take time to read through these because I think it will help us to understand one another better. All right, so I have here, when my parents don't get where I'm coming from or my point of view and perspective. So lack of understanding here. When parents tell you a certain piece of information or give you an instruction without giving room for conversation. I like the emphasis, the all caps. So people want that conversation.
Yeah.
This
is what we get last time too, right, Nazri? Sorry.
It's a recurring, yeah. That people said the same thing before. That opportunity to have a conversation about things, because a lot of times I think from a parent's perspective, if you ask why or ask for any explanation, it's seen as disrespect. But from a child's perspective, it's like, I want to know why. So like, I want to understand the reasoning. It's more to ask for understanding rather than to defy. So I definitely feel that one too. When parents punish me more than my sisters, okay, when they don't give you the chance of proving a point, and sometimes they're hypocrites And when they don't, they ask you to do something when you're already about to do it. That's funny. I think that one is a funny one because, for example, when I'm thinking about, okay, I'm gonna wash the dishes, and then my mom tells me, why aren't you doing the dishes? Da, 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 and she goes about it, and then I'm like, dang, I was really gonna do it, but then now that you said it, I don't want to do it. So that's a funny one. But yeah, that's good. Giving you a chance to prove a point. So I feel like a lot of us want that open conversation. Somebody overreacting about something, or if somebody expects too much from me, okay? Them saying the same thing over and over again, that I get annoyed. Yeah, and I guess from a parent's perspective, it's also like if you're not doing something, then they feel the need to say it over and over again. So that's a good one that happens a lot. Not respectful, responding from the okay. So respect is very important. Yelling, that's a trigger. When they are answering back madly, when my parents accuse me of something I didn't do, and when I get punished for my sister's mistakes. Okay, so there's this idea of like fairness, tone, and being disorganized. Tone is a big one. When I didn't do something but my sister did, and we both get punished, or it triggers me a lot. Okay, so there's this, I guess you guys don't want to be treated as like one unit, so you want people to see your individuality. I'm not sure what mom's response is. When they don't do what I ask them to do and misunderstanding me. Okay, so there's, I guess from a parent's end, parents, to them, they see it as respect, like when you actually hear something and then when you follow up with action. And then misunderstanding, it's very interesting. It's on both sides. Like the kids say, okay, parents are not allowing us to have a conversation, and then parents think they're being misunderstood. So I think it's very important for like open, honest conversations to happen. Them trying to control everything. Okay, no response here. When kids do not appreciate what parents are doing for the family. Okay. When parents don't feel appreciated enough. So that's a good lesson for you, for everyone that's here, like as a student, for us to recognize what parents are doing and like show some gratitude to build these the positive relationships, because it shouldn't always be conflict that we bring up, but like actually saying thank you for this. When parents think that they're right when they're not. Okay. Child, when my mom only makes time for what she wants. And then parent, when kids ignore what they have to do. Okay. When they tell me to do something I am already doing. Okay, so that is, I think the kids want to be seen, the parents want to be seen too. You want to be recognized for what you're doing. When I'm frustrated and somebody doesn't understand how I'm feeling at the time, it gets me mad. Okay, so understanding each other's emotions, seeing, okay, maybe they're not in a good mood right now. Maybe they're frustrated right now. Let me explain something to them. Bringing up mistakes I did a long time ago. Okay, that's a good one too. That's a good one. Them trying to control your moves like a puppet. So I guess with more time, as you grow older, you want less control and more freedom to do what you want. That's a good point. When they are, annoying. I'm finding a reason to be mad when there is no reason. Hey. Okay, so you want something to be founded on like something that you actually did wrong. Okay, no answer here. Parents that think that they're always right. Okay. Political debates. Someone deleted their response. Not listening. When parents don't understand your side of the story. When they are ignoring you or disrespecting. Punishing me for things that my brother did. This is a reoccurring one. When I'm punished when my siblings do something wrong. I didn't know that was a common thing. Me getting the lecture when my brother did something wrong. They are like security guards and they contradict themselves. So you don't want to be controlled as much, okay? Forcing me to do something I don't want to do. Not trying. I don't know if that's a parent. Someone, oh, didn't finish. When my parents can't admit that they are wrong and have no point in an argument. When my kids see me like a police officer. When they go on a rant over nothing. Wow, okay. So I feel like we peered into a lot. There's a lot of topics. Honestly, I kind of want to just save this and go over each topic like in the future. But in general, what I'm sensing is the general themes that I sensed is not understanding each other's perspectives. Like, I think to parents, correct me if I'm wrong, but for you guys, respect is in the way that your children speak to you, and then also like in just obedience. So like when I ask you to do something, when you do it, then that's respectful. And then for this children's side, or like as son or daughter, there's a need for conversation, or when I'm asked for like an explanation or like why this is being asked of them, or why not, what, for like a chance for parents to like respond back and answer, actually like explain themselves, and for that not to be seen, I guess, as disrespect, but rather just a chance to have a conversation. And then the second one that I wanted to bring up was the whole fairness aspect. So not being, especially for those with siblings, not being lumped together. And then the other one was parents being willing to admit that they are wrong. Now, I think that happened for me, like in my relationship with my parents when I was much older. Like my parents were able to have those conversations. Oh yeah, I wasn't right when I did that. And we actually like made up and said, no, I wasn't. And then I apologized for my mistakes too. So like mutual like respect of like, okay, I was wrong when I did this. And parents then also saying I was wrong when I said it in this way, or I was wrong when I overreacted in this way, like actually acknowledging their mistakes rather than just like saying I'm always right, admitting mistake. I don't know if that's something you guys have talked about before, but I think it definitely helped my personal relationship with my parents. That definitely was helpful because I was able to see them as like human, you know? It was like, okay, I can actually respect you, and you can, because you are able to admit when you make mistakes, but I understand like you're human, you know? And then the tone, I think that's a very good one, like speaking respectfully and calmly. So I feel like I learned a lot from your responses, and I hope that you guys actually have discussions with your parents about some of the responses that you put in this chat, because it shouldn't just be something that ends now, but you can continue at home. Okay, I'm gonna go on to the next slide for the sake of time. Sorry, I just wanted to add on with the whole asking for explanation for things. I think I will say that was also something that I struggled with my family, because when it was a time where we were completely didn't agree about what I should do, or like what steps I should take, I wanted that explanation. But in a lot of ways, I think I understood what their fears were, what their concerns were. And so as a child, or as a like the daughter, I was able to like address those things. Like I anticipated, okay, my parents are probably worried that I will lose contact with the family if I live out there, or my parents are probably concerned that I won't focus on my education if I just start working all the time. You know, like, so like I can understand, I already know, knowing my parents, what their concerns are. And so I would honestly just bring those things up for conversation. Like, hey, I know you might be concerned that this might happen, but this is the reason why I'm actually, that won't actually happen. Like what you're worried about won't happen, because I'm taking steps to make sure that I'm focusing on my education and my work, you know, like actually anticipating what your parents might be worried or concerned about, and bringing those things up for conversation, for discussion, explaining yourself, even if the parent doesn't take the time to explain things, you as the daughter can explain your viewpoint. It can explain what your goal is and how it aligns with what your family wants for you. Because if you all have like a similar goal, a similar what is it called? Yeah, a similar goal, then you can convince each other of like, okay, this aligns with what my family expects from me, or what my family desires for me. And so you can kind of explain yourself in a way that your parents understand. And so you can also take the initiative, is what I'm trying to say, as the daughter, as the son. Okay, so we talked about triggers, and while thinking about that specific trigger, we're gonna do an activity to learn how we can develop our emotional vocabulary, meaning how we express ourselves better. So I'm using this emotion wheel to kind of figure out what everyone feels about a specific trigger, and then we'll discuss how we can better express ourselves. So by intentionally thinking about how does this make me feel, and actively taking the steps to figure out how that makes you feel, you make it a very conscious process and you think about it. And so we're intentionally doing this activity so we can think about how our trigger makes us feel. And then in that process, we think about how we can respond when we are triggered. So with that being said, you should have like little dots now where you can answer the question, how do you feel, or how do you feel when that triggering event happens? Excuse the typo. So you can put the little dot in the emotion wheel wherever you may feel. I know it might be kind of hard on your phones. So you can also see on the screen and move it around to where you want it to be. So this activity is honestly just meant for us to think about our emotions, because that was the goal, right? For us to be emotionally self-aware, we have to think about these things. For the person that asked what triggering event, it was, remember how we answered the question, what is something that's triggering to you? You're thinking about that and then writing your, and then putting on the emotion wheel how you feel about it. Some of you are all over the place emotionally, but please mark a spot because we're going to do more activities based on where you put it. So mark a spot and settle down on an emotion. All right. So I see a lot of anger, some sad, some bad. All right. We're going to move on. So like we said, the third step is developing our emotional vocabulary. And so what we're going to do next is actually look at that same wheel, right? But then expand our vocabulary. So even within angry, there's different types of anger. Okay, so were you let down? Were you humiliated? Were you bitter? Were you mad? Were you aggressive, frustrated, distant, critical? Like all these things can fall under angry, like they can make you angry. So what this activity is intended to do is kind of help you to figure out where you are and really think about your emotions even more. So I don't want anyone in the bigger sections. I want you guys to really think about where you fall on the second layer, okay? Remember, the reason why we're doing this is because when we think about our emotions, we're able to process them and then figure out how they affect our behavior. So sitting down, thinking about how we feel helps us to figure out how we can respond better, even express ourselves better to our family. All right, I'm gonna give everyone 10 seconds to settle down on an emotion. For those that are in the inner circle, find something on the outer circle because we're expanding our vocabulary, remember? Instead of just saying, I feel bad, I'm able to say I'm stressed, I'm tired, I'm all these things that are not just bad. We're being more specific. All right. Okay. So you can see that everyone that was just angry earlier, you can see how it kind of split apart, and you actually have different nuances. There's differences in how you're really feeling. So this activity was just honestly to help you kind of process that. I'm going to hide the responses, and just to show you, you can actually go even more in depth. Okay, so you can go even more in depth. I know it's kind of hard to see on your phone, but this emotion wheel kind of really breaks down how you feel so much that you're able to be really specific about how you're feeling, and it makes you kind of take time to think. So I see a lot of you guys participating, and it makes you learn new words too. I learned a lot of new emotional words.
Right.
The other one, but there's a lot of like there's disrespectful, there's even like resentful. So there's, wow, you guys are all over. Let me hide the responses so I can see. Provoked, furious, annoyed, withdrawn. Like there's a lot of responses that are showing me like the later, like it's been repetitive. So this is how you get to that place. But I think it's very important for us to like notice that we're feeling this way and want to heal those relationships, or even address how we're feeling and communicate that with our families. So thank you for everyone that responded. And I hope this activity kind of helps you to think about your emotions and maybe later have the conversation about your how you're feeling when certain triggers or when certain conflicts happen. Oh, sorry.
I know you don't want me to, but I miss home. I miss Minnesota. You need me to be happy, but I want my old friends and my hockey team. I want to go home. Please don't be mad.
Oh, sweetie. We're not mad. You know what? I miss Minnesota too. I miss the woods where we took hikes.
In the backyard where you used to play.
Spring Lake, where you learned to skate. Come here.
Okay, I'll just pause it there. But you can see how things went differently in this scenario. And I want you to answer the question, like, how did Riley communicate differently with her family this time? And earlier we noticed that she was very angry and she expressed her anger. But really this time she expressed the things that were hurting her, even things that her parents didn't see, like from school, from outside of the home, that were affecting her behavior. And so she was very open this time. And you can see how much that helped the relationship and having a sense of understanding between them. And I want to just see what you guys say about it as well. She was honest and sincere with what she said, and this eased her situation and compelled her parents to speak honestly. I like that. That's a very good summary of everything. She talked, she was slower and took her time and controlled herself. She really told them what she feels about moving to a new place and how she missed her old home, she missed her friends. Someone said people usually hide their sadness with joy, but this time she was telling her parents what was wrong, and that helped her parents build trust and become more understanding. She talked to them, she explained how she felt, which ended out better because they weren't screaming at each other, but now they opened up and had a good conversation. That's really good. So she actually expressed her feelings and told them truthfully that she missed her home. That motivated her parents also speak their true feelings. I like that. So it's very important for us to take the time, even if her parents didn't initiate it, she was able to open up, and then that caused her parents to open up. And that's usually the case when one person opens up and truly expresses the emotions that they're feeling, or maybe even the triggers outside of the home that they have to deal with, then it causes other people to also be open. She wasn't mad, and saying her feelings helped her parents to understand. So she was open. So you guys are saying a lot of similar things. She honestly expressed her feelings, which was more beneficial as her parents actually know what is going on. And based on what you guys were talking about earlier, I think a lack of understanding leads to a unnecessary conflict, right? And so when we're able to explain ourselves to one another and be open to one another, it creates a chance for connection. It creates a chance for just open, honest conversations, sincere conversations, like you guys were saying. So I'm glad you guys shared your responses here. Thank you. So with that in mind, as you can see, it's kind of like loops back around. They were able to forgive one another for the bad interaction that happened, right? And actually be open. And true love, really, like this is an example of what love really looks like, right? They're able to bear the burden of one another and share that with one another. So if you're able to open up to your parents about what's really bothering you, then they can help and support you, because the goal of most parents is to support their kids to be like fully grown, fully capable individuals. And honestly, all they have is like love for you guys. And as kids, we want to be able to strengthen that relationship with what we have with our parents, because it is very essential. Even the Bible commands us to respect our parents. And if we are not able to have that solid relationship at home, it affects how you do a lot of things. It affects your schoolwork, it affects your friendships, it affects a lot of your life. So it's very important for us to really care for the relationship that we have with our parents and have that open communication. Even before like any conflict erupts, sharing details about your life to your parents, like telling them about your day, those little things can build trust, can build open relationships, so that when conflict does arise, it's not a new skill that you have to develop out of nowhere. And so I'm glad you guys were able to see it modeled in this clip here. So with that being said, I know you guys have been here for like 2 hours. You are amazing. So I'm going to just leave off with one last question, which is just what takeaway do you have from this session that you can apply to your everyday life? We'll read through those and then we'll wrap up from there. Thank you for everyone that participated, that shared your thoughtful responses. I appreciate it a lot. And I'm sure other people appreciate it as well. Okay, let me start reading some response. Actually, people are typing. I'll give you guys about 30 more seconds. So one takeaway from the session that you want to apply in your everyday life. Okay. Folks are still typing. Okay. Someone said that being honest with the way you feel is more beneficial in life. Not everyone will understand where you are coming from, and you should express your feelings. That's a good one, right? People are not mind readers. It's important for us to express how you feel. You have to show your emotions in a respectful and beneficial way. Being honest isn't going to make the situation worse. It's just going to make it better. That's a good lesson. We should try and avoid misunderstandings because they cause unnecessary conflict. Understanding each other's situation. Someone said to be more understanding of my parents and to understand why they do what they do, because it's for the better and that they want the best for me, and to express my feelings in a better way. That's a good summary. Thank you for sharing. Having open discussions and expressing feelings helps to build our relationships. Communication is critical. Being more open about my feelings. I want to have a closer relationship with my parents and be more honest. I'm really glad to hear that. Fighting gets nowhere. You should know how to better manage your feelings. be more calm, to look at things from my parents' point of view. Someone said have to have mutual understanding, and I think this helped me emotionally and motivated me to speak truthfully to my parents about how I feel and helped me to understand my parents' point of view. I'm really glad to hear that. That's really good. And someone said, I want to understand my parents more and to be honest about how I feel with them. To be more respectful, to be open about your emotions, be good. And I think I missed one up top.